You're listening to the God Life Culture Podcast, where faith
and what's trending collide. Welcome to the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. This is Eddie.
What's up, everyone? This is Miguel, and you are listening to the God Life Culture Podcast. We want to say welcome back to our podcast. We hope that today you are doing well, whether you are on your way to work, on your way to summer school, for those who are doing summer school, if you are driving, right, at night and on your way to the beach or wherever you are going to, if you are on vacation, right, we just want to say thank you for tuning in and listening to our podcast today. We hope that you are doing well, that you are enjoying the summer. We are in the middle of summer, and I know I'm having fun. I know you are having fun and enjoying the summer. And we hope that you are doing well also.
Yeah. Are you a beach person or a pool person?
So I can do both, but I have like stipulations, right? So,
okay. All right, rubrics.
So here we go. So I like the pool, right? But I'm not a fan of cold water. So it'll take me a minute to like actually get in, right? But if it's really hot and the sun is blazing, I'm good. But if it's like not like that hot of a day out, or if it's like breezy and windy, the sun's not really out, I won't like go in the pool. Now the beach, love the beach, but I won't go into the beach water. I mean, I have, right? Like in tropical islands, right? But like, I'm not doing the beach out here, like just in the water, like just, you know what I mean? But like, you know, when we've been to different places and traveled and vacation, whatever, I'm definitely in the beach water, but just in New York, it's just like, no. But I love going to the beach, chilling in the sand, you know, get your feet wet, whatever. But I'm not like submerging myself in the beach water, underwater, in the waves, surfing, doing all of that. But I like both. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I think because of the kids, I prefer the pool. You know, throw a life jacket on them. One of them is pretty much practically swimming on his own, but he still gets a life jacket. And because I am the type of parent that regardless of where I go, I'm always vigilant. But the pool is better than the beach.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's kind of like on the pool, it's like, all right, they have their life jackets on. You're still watching, but you're not worried that a wave is going to take them and, you know, take them to the middle of the ocean. So because of the kids, I prefer the pool. But if kids out of the question, I'm fine either way. I think the beach sometimes is more fun when you're with adults. You play beach volleyball, you do all this like crazy stuff, so that's more fun. But if I'm traveling with the kids, I prefer the pool.
Yeah, I could see that. I know this year for me, I made it like a goal of mine to be in the pool as much as possible. You know, my parents have like a nice pool, and last summer, you know, we had our son in the beginning of the summer, so we were just like caught up in that world that I think I went into the pool one time, and it was like in September or something like that. And then like even the year before, we just were busy doing other things. We traveled and whatever, that we didn't really go into the pool as much. So it's like we have this whole nice pool in my parents' backyard that I could go to
often,
right?
Which is the other
so it's like
thing.
I can just go there, and you know. But again, it's just the idea of like the water is always so cold, and but at night, believe it or not, it's actually really warm. I guess just sitting in the sun all day, you know what I mean? That by the time night comes, there are times where it's actually like the water's like you could see like the smoke rising or whatever, the steam. But it's nice. So again, this year I've made it kind of a goal to just go in and enjoy it as much as I can. And I think so far I've been doing pretty good, because it's been like 4 or 5 times already. So look at that. I've been in the pool more this year than I have in like the last 2-3 years combined. You know what I mean? So again, it's just one of those things where I think it's just cool to do that regardless, right? With just different things in your life, whether it's in the summertime or in different seasons, where it's just kind of like, you know, we don't really do this as much. Maybe we can do that more often, or we don't really, you know, go here. We don't really take out time for this. Maybe you should start, you know, plugging that in your schedule and just kind of trying to make a way, right, to make that happen for you.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
I think we've spoken about intentionality a lot. The idea of sometimes you have to schedule in fun. Like you just have to, like, my wife and I were looking at our schedule for the summer, especially starting from June, it was like every weekend was somebody's birthday, somebody's graduation party, somebody's something. And there's like constantly stuff happening that even though we're together, like we're going to those things as a family, we are not doing anything that's just us. So we had to block out dates in July, dates in August, which is like, we're not planning anything for those days. Like those are going to be our days. We'll go do something ourselves. Yesterday happened to be one of those days where it's kind of like, let's just go and do something. Whereas us, just you just got to go out with your family sometimes. And I think it's important. Like we always say, like family's important. Doesn't matter if you're always busy and up and down with them, but when you're not taking out time to intentionally be around them, that's a problem. So
you recently saw Inside Out 2. How was that?
We did. It was cute. I think
everybody was viral moment of Joy casting anxiety out and saying let her go and that whole thing. And how was that?
It's like one of those things where I was telling my wife because she was like, it was good, but I thought it was going to be like more powerful. I'm like, you literally saw the whole movie online. Because, like we vet our movies because of the kids. And, because you have to rent your movie, sometimes you have to wait like a week or two after the movie comes out to like really like see like what the deal is with the movie. So as she's doing her research, she's seeing all the scenes and all the powerful moments and stuff like that. So I'm like, you already experienced it at home. So when you go to the movies, it's not really new to you. Yeah. So it's not going to have the same shock factor or the same like powerful moment. But I thought what I really liked about the movie, because obviously one of the biggest things is its focus on the new emotion, which is anxiety that comes in for this particular character during puberty. Have you seen that yet?
No.
No? All right, well, I'm going to spoil it.
But I will.
Was that anxiety's intentions were quote unquote good. So it was just planning for the future. Want to get this right. In order to get that right, in order to be successful, you got to do this, you got to do that. And that's like the idea that particular anxiety was focused on. So I thought that was interesting. Because a lot of times I think anxiety can manifest itself in very different ways, but I think that that's a very relatable way, especially for young people, kids. The idea of I need to make these friends and I need to connect with this group of people and I need to do this for college and I got to do this for school or whatever, where anxiety can manifest itself that way, where you're like superly obsessed with the future, which is like, bro, like chill. Take a minute, take a beat, enjoy the moment, enjoy what's happening in your life currently. Yes, prepare for the future, but don't make it your sole purpose. So I think overall the movie was cute. It was good.
Yeah.
It was a good movie.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I like in what you're saying, and the idea that I think it's cool that the conversation is being brought up earlier about anxiety with kids. I think a lot of times kids may experience feelings of anxiety and not know that it's anxiety, right? Yeah. But like you said, I think that oftentimes, it's like that double-edged sword. Sometimes it disguises itself as a good thing where it's like, oh, it's fine to feel this way because I need to plan, I need to prepare, I need to know what's coming. But then there are just things in life where you're not going to be prepared and you're not going to know. So it's okay to feel that also. You know what I mean? So I think it's just the balance where it's like those people who love to plan and love to schedule and love to know what's coming and not be caught off guard. That's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Planning for the future and being prepared and knowing what's coming and wanting to know is not a bad thing. But now when that goes unchecked, right, then I think that's when it becomes unhealthy. Yeah. So I think it's cool kind of presenting it in a way of like, the emotion of anxiety itself is not good, but the idea of planning and preparing is something that you should do, right? Yeah. And you should be expectant of the future and you should have things in mind. And sometimes even like having those plan Bs. Well, what am I going to do if this doesn't work out? What am I going to do if that doesn't work out? Well, I have a plan B. I know I'm going to go this route or I'll pivot and do this. Yeah. And I think those are really good things to be able to do and be able to think through. But now when that consumes you, I think that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that the movie does great, which they do it in the first movie with the character of Sadness, which is present to everybody the fact that all emotions are needed. They're not always good, but all emotions are needed in order to be well-rounded. One of the things that happens in the second movie is the idea that Joy is very particular in the very first part of the movie about making sure that it's all about happy memories, good memories. Those are the ones that matter. Those are the important ones. Those are the ones that makes you who you are. And then throughout the movie, you kind of discover it's really everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything makes you who you are, and you want to be well-rounded. You want to know what it is to go through sadness, have anxiety, understand boredom, anger, envy. They aren't cute emotions sometimes, but they are important because they teach you life lessons.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I didn't watch the movie, so I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. But have you ever, and I kind of want to be careful how I phrase it, but have you ever been around like individuals, or I've heard individuals where they kind of lead with their, let's say, anxiety in a way, like for instance, I just thought of this example that happened recently. We were at the mall picking something up, and I saw one of the workers from that particular store kind of walking in my direction, but there were other workers there, and I was kind of, with my son kind of just there waiting for my wife to finish, and she comes and she's just, she tells them, I have the anxiety of someone that's like being hunted right now, and I have no idea why. And she's just there, like, but like she's just and they're like, well, what's wrong with you? They're like, what's wrong with you? And she's like, I don't know. It's just me all the time. And like she's laughing through it and just kind of, you know what I mean? So I just kept observing her throughout, like what she was doing, and I believed her. You know what I mean? Like she felt that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Looking at her, she's not doing much. Heart is racing. It's like if she's having difficulty breathing, but it's like she kept bringing it up when she was with her circle, her people there at her job. And I've been around other individuals who, let's say they have children who may suffer from like social anxiety or anxiety, whatever. They're kind of very quick to just identify their child in that way, around others, where it's like, oh, they suffer from this, or they have this, social anxiety, or they have this and that. And, there have been moments where individuals have said that to me, and I'm looking at their kid and I'm just like, but why are you saying that right now in this moment? They're just talking.
They're fine.
You know what I mean? They're fine. Yes, they have energy right now, but that's not, I don't think that's social anxiety at this moment, and I think sometimes we have to just be careful with, clinging on to those labels so much and like identifying with those things all the time.
Yes.
We can have anxious moments. That doesn't necessarily mean you suffer from anxiety. You know what I mean? And we talked about this before, but I think, and specifically with our kids, right? It's something that we can just say to other people, and now you have other people looking at your child through that lens, or filtering your child through that lens. And it's like, they may have a diagnosis, they may have, an actual issue or situation happening, but you don't necessarily have to go around announcing it, where now everyone else seems to be filtering what they say and how they act around your child through that lens. Yes. Are there things that people should know? Yes. Are there special needs that people should know about you or other people? Yes. Yep. Right. But now, are there things that you don't need to go around sharing and professing and claiming over your child or over the people you love? Absolutely. You know what I mean? And I think even as adults, we can kind of grow up with this, feeling of, for instance, for me growing up, I was more introverted, did not really like talking to people, was usually by myself, was more shy, didn't really, have conversations with other people or lead the conversations or want to be in big groups. I could live the rest of my life based off of how I was during my adolescent or childhood years, and kind of just label myself an introvert, label myself a homebody, label myself as I don't like to talk to people, I'm shy, and I'm always alone, and all these things, and kind of miss out on a lot of opportunities because of that. Where it's like, you know what? Do I prefer to sometimes be alone? Yes. Do I have more tendencies to be more introverted? Yes. Right. But I'm also able to tap into other sides of myself, or extroverted, right, sides of myself, where, you know what, when I have to be in front of people, I can be. When I have to be in groups of other people, I can be. And I'm not constantly there like, I'm not good at this, I don't do this, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that, especially as a child, when you kind of put that language and talk that way around them constantly, it's like you don't want to feed that thing in their life that they actually have to just either submit to God, surrender to God, or just learn how to control. Yeah. You know what I mean? You don't want to now make that a part of their life and their identity, where they're forever looking at themselves through the lens of anxiety, or looking at themselves through the lens of, oh, I'm usually the outcast and everything, so I'll be the outcast in this situation. You know what I mean? We just have to be so careful.
Yeah, and I think that unfortunately, due to, especially during the era of social media and mental health being such an open conversation, we see a lot of people that self-diagnose, and they're like, oh, that sounds like me, or that looks like me, or they start diagnosing other people and they walk around with these labels and these titles that aren't necessarily true to who their identity is. One of the things that, from what you were saying, that I thought was very interesting was that everyone goes through stages in their lives where they're having moments where they're down. They're having moments where they're more sad or whatever. Other days where they're feeling super excited, want to take over the world type of situation. And then there are people who it's also situational. Maybe currently in the environment they find themselves in, around the people they found themselves in, they're very not as social or not as extroverted or not as whatever you want to say. But get that person around the right group of people, the right people that understand who they are, the people that make them feel comfortable to talk, made them feel comfortable to be in their own skin, be who they are. They will be a completely different person. So a lot of times these things that people are going through can be mental health situations where maybe medication is needed and all that stuff. Yes, there are situations where that's true. There are situations where it's a mala maña, like we say. Like, honestly, bro, get over it. That's not even, you don't have that. You're just projecting that upon yourself for whatever reason. You need to shake it off. And then there's other people that it's just, you got to put them in the right scenario. Put them in the right group. Put them in the right area, in the new job. Maybe they need a new job. Maybe they need a new friend group. Maybe they need to be around other people. And you'll see how this person switches it up. So the idea of, and it really goes for parents where they think they're doing a good thing by announcing to the world, oh, so-and-so is has social anxiety or has this or has that. And it's like, really though? Because, and it's funny. And I think like you have seen this too, where you'll have individuals who the parents will present them to you in a certain way. And then you challenge that person, that kid, that youth to do something and they excel and they do great. And it's like, all right, mom, dad, instead of you just constantly cutting off opportunities for them because they're socially anxious, why don't you encourage them to be more, expressive or to take more of those challenges? Because that's also how you overcome those things. I was someone who was very, I didn't like to talk in front of people. I still to this day get nervous for everything. I'm nervous at the moment. But through life and through experiences, you start to build the strength to get over that nervousness a lot quicker. I get socially anxious, if you want to put it that way. Yes, I do. Is that a label that I identify with, that I introduce myself to with everyone? Absolutely not. Because at the end of the day, at this age of my life, I've developed the skills to overcome that when I am feeling socially anxious. These labels aren't meant to keep you where you are. These labels are, if anything, made to identify where you are, like the specific marker in your journey in your life at the moment, but you can overcome them.
Yeah, absolutely. And another big thing outside of Inside Out 2 is The Chosen, right? We're switching gears completely, right? And you actually started watching it, right? Yeah. Because for a long time I was always talking to you about it, talked about it on here, but you have made it. Right, you have arrived and you watched and you binged it in less than a month, I think, or something like that.
Yeah. It would have been a lot quicker, but I was watching with my wife, so we have to wait.
I know. Yeah. And we were talking about it. The current season 4 just it was in theaters for a while. I saw most of the episodes there. I saw the last 2 at home this past week. You're all caught up as well. So just give me your overall thoughts on just everything as a whole, like the show. What did you think watching it?
Honestly, the reason why I started watching it with my wife was because, as you guys know, me and Miguel teach Sunday school. And a couple of weeks ago, maybe like a month or 2 ago, we entered into the New Testament and we started to talk about the life of Jesus, which is stuff that we're super mega familiar with. Not that we know everything about it, which I learned in this process, that there's a lot of stuff I didn't know. But one of the things that we use a lot is visuals. We use a lot of visuals in our class. If we can put up animated something or video explaining something or whatever, we put it up in our class. And Miguel kept using these clips from The Chosen. Whenever we hit on a certain thing in one of our lessons, he would always throw in a clip of The Chosen just to give more visual context of what it looked like, what it could have looked like, and all of that. And we kept on getting these videos put in the class, and I was like, I might as well just watch this, because I felt like I was getting bits of pieces of it when I was like, let me just watch it from the beginning and then really understand.
The way I'm finding out about this right now with all of you is amazing. I love that I am part of the reason that you started watching this. This is great.
Anyway,
continue.
So What was the question? What did I think about it overall?
What did you think overall about the show? You watch all of it and like think about it, because most people have seen that in over a span of a few years.
Yeah, like 4 years.
You know what I mean? You saw it all in like about a month.
Yes.
So you got to digest all of it quickly. Where a lot of people didn't have that because we have to wait between seasons and all of that. So what did you think overall? Was it something that you recommend to people? Is it something that you liked, that you enjoyed?
I recommend to people. Obviously, it's like even when I talk about it in class now, I always say that you have to understand that creative liberties were taken in certain aspects. Like if there's a conversation that's happening, that Bible doesn't say that person spoke to that person. Obviously, we know that. Like, you have to understand that going in. One of the things that I said when I first started watching it was that I thought that it was very bold of them to start off in the first episode. It is basically the story of Mary Magdalene, but they present her with a different name in the beginning, and I'm like, ooh, people are not gonna like this, especially with the name that they chose. I'm like, ooh, they're really not gonna like this. But if you're able to get past certain things or whatever, it's very biblically sound. I think my biggest thing, and we spoke about it in today's class. Today we're speaking on Luke chapter 4, and it's a story in the Bible that a lot of people are faintly familiar with. When you speak about the scripture about how you're not I know it in Spanish. How do you translate it?
You're not a prophet in your hometown. Yes. But can I say, I don't even think people are faintly familiar with it. I just think people know that one verse.
Yes, people know the verse.
So I don't even think people know that it was Jesus in the synagogue and opened up the scroll and all of that. I think they don't know that. I just think they know the verse.
Yeah, so people know the verse. Like, the verse is familiar to them. So I was one of... You're talking about a Sunday school teacher. I was one of those people that was familiar with the verse, familiar with the scriptures and all of that. Did I ever capture when reading the scripture that Jesus was dragged out of the synagogue and almost thrown off a cliff? I had no idea.
Yeah.
So when I'm watching this happening, I'm like, oh wow, that's a very good. I guess they took a very creative liberty to incorporate that scene. That's cute. And then I'm preparing for my class, and this is the scripture that I have to prepare for. And I'm like, oh, wow, it really is.
So you didn't actually at the time...
No. I just chalked it off
like,
as, they're using the scripture, because I know that Jesus
right.
does say that. It's out. Right. Oh, okay, they're just building...
And
they're building a scenery for why Jesus would say that type of a thing. Yeah. And then when it's time for me to study that, I'm like, oh, mira.
But I think stuff like that is actually really good. And there are people that can look at it and be like, oh, like that's a problem. Or like, even things where there's some people that you may question, like for instance, you watched that and you kind of didn't know it was exactly like, I guess you could say biblical, or actually in the Bible. But then there are other things that may not be in the Bible that people may take as it is in the Bible, or Jesus actually said that thing. There are plenty of different directions that they go in the show, and I know people can have a problem with that because it's like, but the person doesn't know, and now they're taking this as Bible, where it's like, this show should challenge you to go back to the Bible now and look up answers and look things up and look to see, did Jesus say that? What was the context? Like for me, the season finale now they were kind of building up to the, resurrection of Lazarus. And there were just certain things, and specifically with Jesus wept, that we spoke about. And I spoke about it with my dad as well, where I think for me, we envision it, for so long, we envisioned Jesus weeping because he loved Lazarus so much. You know what I mean? Where in the show, they portrayed the verse of Jesus wept in that moment in a completely different way at a different time. You know what I mean? Where almost is like you're questioning, is he crying about Lazarus? Is he crying about the people's unbelief? Is he crying about, because he knows that this is like his last, big sign before the road to his crucifixion starts? Like, where did this emotion come from all of a sudden? You know what I mean? So again, you reading it in the Bible, Jesus wept. You just, he was sad, right? Now, this show kind of challenges you to really think about, what was happening before this moment, what happened after this moment, what could he have been crying about, what did that moment show? I think the biggest thing that moment, showed for a lot of people was Jesus' humanity. We focus so much on Jesus' divinity that we sometimes forget that he was human as well, did not sin, and all of those things. So I think for people, it's sometimes good to see a Jesus that would break down like that and cry, right, with such emotion. Talking about emotions earlier, it's like, again, those emotions aren't necessarily a bad thing. Now, I think if Jesus would have stood on the ground weeping and would have just need to have been carried out crying back to his home and put to bed, it's almost like, Jesus, you missed out on this opportunity to work a miracle, right? But again, Jesus being 100% man but also 100% God didn't let his emotion keep him down, right? And in that moment, he was still able to do what the purpose, was for him to do in that moment, So I think that was just also a really good thing. So I think the show really challenges you when you know the Bible and you know a lot of the stories and you're very familiar with the Bible to go back and now look at context and look at details, right? And then for those individuals who may not be familiar with the Bible, it should challenge you to go back now and actually start reading it,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, one of the many takeaways that I get from it was how the show is really good at positioning the actor who plays Jesus as Jesus, the Messiah, the miracle worker, the one with the wisdom and that's there for you and all that stuff or whatever, but also highlighting the fact that he was human. One of the questions that I posed in today's class was, describe Jesus to me. And immediately everybody goes into the whole mega spiritual, like somebody said steadfast. I think you said empathetic. My wife said something else, which are all true things about who Jesus is. But then I asked the question, do you think Jesus had a favorite food? Do you think that there was something that Jesus was technically not very good at? Was there a sport? Somebody said maybe they think that Jesus couldn't sing, which I thought was funny. But that
also got me thinking too about that question that you posed. Was there something he wasn't good at? Because it's almost like, I think the answer would be yes, as long as it did not cause him to be imperfect. You know what I mean? So it's like, if he wasn't good at something, right, or could possibly fail at something, that would mean he's not perfect. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think Jesus was able to do everything he was set out to do and able to do. But if there were things that maybe challenged him, it was like, it only challenged him to a point where he wasn't able to be imperfect. You know what I mean? When you think about it, right? You look at him when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, the biggest challenge of his life, going to die on the cross. Yet he has this moment where he's like, wanting to give up. It's like, he still died on the cross. So it's like, could he have a moment where it's like he really didn't have a voice to sing, maybe got some vocal lessons or whatever, and then could sing? Maybe, right? We don't know. But it's just one of those things that gets you thinking, right? Like, was there something that actually he wasn't good at, right? And I'm not talking about, like, again, spiritual things, just like in everyday, like, could he cook?
Because it was like in the show, there's a scene where they're playing a sport or whatever, and then he's not really the best at the moment. But then it's like, is he playing it off?
Right?
Is it like
because he's so good?
He could kill, like, not physically, but he could like destroy all of y'all and win this. But he's like, let me be human in this moment and fumble the ball or whatever. So it's a question. But if it's a choice, let's say it's a conscious choice that he's making to not be amazing in that moment. That is also, in a way, how people at that time, his friends, his neighbors, would know him. Oh, Jesus of Nazareth, super smart, isn't the best at basketball or whatever, right? So then it's also, like I was saying, the dichotomy of, you have this person who is someone you grew up with, that the stuff he's good at, the stuff that he's maybe not excellent in or whatever, who's saying they're the Messiah. That's where, especially people at this time in Nazareth, the people he grew up with, are having this issue with, because it doesn't fit the bill of what they thought Jesus, the Messiah, was supposed to look like. So that, and I think it's funny when you think about that. Was Jesus walking around anywhere he walked, he was on the cloud? No, I don't think. That's not how Jesus presented himself. He had the human side of him, which meant that there was human things to him, whether were quirks or part of his personality that people sometimes don't think of, because he is Jesus, the super being. Yeah. So.
And I think it's always good to take that step back, right? And think about the humanity of Jesus as well, because I think it also helps you, and it came up several times in the class, but just the idea of, like, when you yourself are going through it, right? And you yourself are going through, difficult times or seasons in your life, where it's like, you can look at Jesus, like, in his time on earth, and see that a lot of the things that you are maybe going through, he went to a certain degree, or in a certain way, he experienced those emotions. You know what I mean? And, someone mentioned in the class about the idea of Jesus being a finisher, right? And I think ultimately, the Bible even tells you to look to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, right? Looking to Jesus, he's the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end. It's like, we have an example of someone to look at. And I think a lot of times we forget that, right? We know him as God, we know him as Savior, but it's like, yes, know him as God and Savior, but know that when he was also here on earth, he was challenged and he went through it. But he pushed through, he got through, he made it to the end, and he finished the task and the mission that God had separated for him. So I think in essence, when you watch a show like The Chosen, or when you read the Bible, I don't know if this happens to you now, but like in certain instances when talking about Jesus or reading something about Jesus, whatever, my mind goes to like Jesus from The Chosen or like certain characters from The Chosen. You know what I mean? It gives you a visual where it's just kind of also this idea that there are people that thrive off of the visuals. So it's like, you know what? Some people may need to read their Bible, but also see it. And when you see it, it gives what you read a whole new meaning and a whole different meaning. So I challenge you, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's not too late. I think now all 4 seasons are out on the Chosen app. Some of them are on streaming, Netflix and all those different places you can find it. But check it out. And again, be challenged and allow yourself to be challenged, and also give yourself room. If you don't know something, to go verify, go check and confirm. Is this biblical? Was this creative liberty? Because at least in my experience from watching it, the moments where they took the creative liberty, it's not like it's something out of Jesus's character or something Jesus wouldn't have done, right? So it's not like they're portraying Jesus to be doing something that's like Jesus would have never done that, because that's crossing all these different lines. It's like they're pretty good at giving creativity, but also keeping it aligned with the Bible and what his character was, and what we know about Jesus. So for sure, definitely go check it out.
Yeah, definitely check it out. It's really good, not only in the Jesus focus, but also the disciples' character development is also something that I find very interesting as well. That whole dynamic, what they may have been thinking through this whole journey, is also something that's very interesting as well. But at the end of the day, we say it all the time, take a chance. If there's something faith-based that's out there, go in with an open mind. Obviously, not everything is sound. Not everything is biblically sound. There's certain things like, well, this is not good. You need to walk away. But then there's other things that you do have to go in with an open mind. And as long as the creative liberties don't go against the core beliefs of your faith, of the Bible, then the kind of stuff that you're like, okay, that's cool. Yeah. That's cute. We can let it be.
Yeah. So definitely thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We want you to subscribe. If you are listening, hit that subscribe button so you can be notified every time we drop a new episode. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at God Life Culture Podcast. We hope that you are enjoying your summer, that you are out there doing things that you love to do. If you haven't gotten a chance to go out and do anything, schedule it, plan it, make it happen. And if you haven't seen The Chosen or Inside Out 2, go see those 2 things as well.
Why not? Make a weekend out of it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you once again for tuning in to the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. That's
God Life Culture.
Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.